Hello everyone, my name's Stanislaw Koper. I'm the head DJ at Canary Protocol. You probably know me walking around as that goofy guy in the funny hat. And basically, I'm going to be explaining to you why we think oracles are broken in the space right now, and especially for real world assets. So we've seen a huge shift on-chain finance, right? Beginning of the year, we had $1 billion of RWAs. Now from RWXYZ, we have 28 billion. So we have seen the beginning of the huge growth of protocols, chains. We have Midas, Superstate, Centrifuge, Securitize, and yesterday we had Tempo announced. So now we need to create the rails for those projects to have the access from the institutions to come directly on chain. So what's the big problem? The oracles that we have today are broken. So essentially, the consensus modules that were designed were for crypto assets themselves. They're not designed for real-world assets. Real-world assets require a completely different type of infrastructure to ensure guarantees for these huge institutions to pour in trillions of dollars. We have the single points of failures from bridges. We've had hacks. We had the Nomad hacks for 80 millions. We had key poisonings. We had malicious man in the middle of attacks. So essentially, also the oracles lack speed, security, and the integrity for these projects to come on board. As a result, we have custom infra being built by these teams. So often tokenized treasury projects will have to create the entire infra for their pricing systems, security, all over again. So that is really annoying because now you have to make sure that everything is built custom made. And that fragments liquidity. We also know that proof of reserves, as it stands today, is a lie. You're trusting someone being like, hey, I have $25 million in reserves. Do you really? But with Canary, we'll be able to, we will be able to cryptographically prove proof of reserves are actually happening. And as well as the guardrails that exist with traditional oracles can potentially cause prices changes without any issues. As well as the validators are your source, unlike what we see is taking the source directly from, let's say, institutions like Wintermute or a bank, for example. It's not going to be a bank. So why this matters? So we demand better assurances, pricing, compliance, right? The traditional oracles cannot give you certain compliances that these regulatory bodies need to directly come on chain. And existing oracles often are slow and unauditable. Yes, there are many oracles out there that have created a new real-world asset. They're focusing on real-world assets. However, we need to make sure that it's done correctly. It's best to be a specialist in one certain area than the jack of all. And according to PwC, there's 40 trillion worth of assets ready to come on chain, but they can't. Because if all those assets directly came on chain right now, it would freeze everything and we would have issues. So this is where we come in, Canary Nest. So we are creating the financial internet of the future. And how did we start this? We didn't start with the Oracle first. First of all, we created an interoperability layer on top of layer 0, a digital verifier network. This all runs in a trusted execution environment for tamper-proof verifications to ensure that your message from chain A to chain B will be verifiably true. And made through our consensus of K of N of our nodes, as well as SSL pinning to prevent man-in-the-middle attacks and poisoning. So this also ensures that we have institutional curators in every single pipeline, because trusting these people are also having their reputation on the line. And as well as something that we will do is post cryptographic attestations directly on chain to prove that this was the price from the source. Oh, and I forgot to mention that we are already securing $10 billion of assets within our DVN network. So protocols like ETHWarsaw, Morpho have decided to use our DVN without us even approaching, because our DVN stack is the fastest in the world after comparing every single one that exists today to 10 to 15 times. Plus, this runs in this tamper-proof isolated seal. So here is our Canary Nest Oracle. It runs in millisecond latency for real-time data markets. We have hardware-attested data with TE and SSL pinning, And our K of N sourcing is directly from institutional curators. So you don't have to rely on validators themselves. And then we have key compliance trails, and then the institutional curators have those standards, because these curators themselves will be setting those standards, and then we will be doing that with them. It's not just another Oracle, it is the institutional grade layer for NAV, collateral, and credit. Proof in the pie, we are already powering $10 billion of assets, 100% of uptime, and over a dozen adapters. And we currently do 5% of all layer 0 volume through our DVM. So we have created provable institutional grade infrastructure that now we can build this real world asset Oracle. And how does Canary compare to the current Oracles today? So we have the TNE integrations, adaptive guardrails, the K of N aggregated consensus, institutional curators, and we have the latency periods of 1 millisecond and provable TSSL. And I thought this was going to be a 15-minute chat. I didn't realize I had half an hour. So I would rather have an open conversation afterwards, because I prefer having these kind of discussions. So vision ahead, we are creating the global rails for on-chain finance with a seamless flow of tokenized assets with verifiable settlement. And the key issue is, like, we're not trying to compete with other oracles. We are not going for your altcoins, meme coins. We're creating a new standard for specifically RWAs and your blue chip assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum. So, like, essentially for us, we want to make sure that these institutions will have all they need from day one using our protocol. Something that we are excited to announce is the Canary Ambassador Program, where we're partnering with Community to create an entire educational program where we will derive courses of how to become a leader in the space, to be an outreach of our Canary. Essentially, we don't want no shitposting. This is spam. We're creating an entire educational sphere that people will be able to go out and educate themselves for. Thank you for listening. And I'd rather open up to now to have a conversation with the audience about what they need about oracles and the data that flows. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
So thank you for your presentation. Just for context, so I think when people who have been around the blockchain industry for a little while think about oracles, it's usually because there's a price feed or something fueling some kind of like perpetuals, futures market or something like that. Is that the kind of institutional use case that you're seeing, or like what are can you give me an idea of the repertoire of the kind of information that these institutions need an oracle for?
Yeah, for sure. So right now, like, let's say we have a protocol going on, like, let's say with perpetual DEX, right? We need to ensure that none of this data is being manipulated, because in the future, we're going to have much more sophisticated attacks. So for example, something I didn't mention earlier is that we leverage EigenLayer for a pre-dispute protocol, just in case if anything did happen and go past these guardrails, like the T. Like, for example, you can't essentially manipulate our TTE. Everything that is in there, what happens, comes out is fully verifiably and secure. And that's why the institutions want more than just a price feed, more than just validators. They need to have multiple guardrails. So for example, in an event that you were able to manipulate one of the price feeds, right? Our system will detect that and will just completely exclude that price feed from, let's say, that institutional curator. So the project using our price feed won't be affected. So they need tamper-proof verifiability. That's what they want to have, that guarantee that that price is going to happen at that moment. And as well, that we can offer that 1 millisecond speed, is that PerpDex is integrated with real world asset trading, have that advantage over other oracles in there. So we're not trying to take the space from traditional crypto assets.
And you said that there have been a couple of institutions who have adopted your protocol already. Congratulations! That's really terrific news. that suggests to me that maybe you weren't aware that they were going to do it. Like, was it a surprise to find them integrated?
So we have a small team. There's so much BDing and like outreach we can do. So we did the research out there in the DVN space. So the standard implementation is in Gasolina. We created it all from scratch, it bespokely in Go. So now we have proof to say that our DVN can scale to billions of messages in a second in event someone tried to do a spam or attack, as well as we have those cryptographic proofs to prevent these institutions moving these large amounts of money, right? So when you're bridging from chain A to chain B, there's potentially maybe it could get attacked, right? But our attestations protect that.
And is there like a SDK for the API or something that kind of defines those?
We will be releasing everything very soon. It's because there's some things we're about to announce very soon. So we only literally just started doing our outreach and going public. So right now it's mainly B2B, but there's some very exciting announcements for some of the biggest protocols in all of the crypto space who are about to use our tech stack. So we're delivering that institutional grade interoperability. So another thing that people should think about, every bridge is an oracle and not every oracle is a bridge. So more about that will be in the future, but that's what we're building is the institutional grade finance that hasn't existed for RWAs. And we're proving it as when we launched on day one, we had $5 billion in TVS. So we've built something that's never existed. And in actual fact, we have no competitors that do what we do.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
What about the government's Chainlinks tries to solve it, use it, the token governments, and how it will work in the Canary?
So do you mean how are we differentiating from Chainlink?
Yeah.
So, well, everyone knows Chainlink. Chainlink is the OG. It has the partnerships, right? And every major... So one thing people may not realize is many protocols by default use Chainlink, and then you'll have, let's say, other oracles say, these protocols are using our oracle as well. They're not. If Chainlink goes down, they'll use the alternative oracles as well. So what we're changing is we are only using protocols that will actually integrate us and use us as a first-party oracle, right? So does that answer your question? Yeah. And then what was the second part to it? Something about token? I don't understand.
Yeah, like Chainlink use government's token to make decisions.
Yeah.
And how it will work in the Canary, like because the oracles, it is like centralized history in the crypto, and they use tokens to make it more decentralized.
Eventually, you can't say that we will not have a token, but obviously at the end goal is to have a decentralized process over time and make sure it's done properly. Any other questions? Nope. No? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, yes.
Do you have at the moment an open source code or where I can read about the protocol? Because I have visited your site, but I can't find...
Yeah, we're releasing all of our documents and kits very soon because the DVN architecture itself, every single DVN is essentially closed source because that's the magic pipe source that makes us the best because we have created it in a bespoke way. But the other parts of it will be releasing.
Okay, so that's the magic, and now you will be releasing it, yes? I understand correctly.
Yeah, we'll be releasing... Well, no, the DVN will always be closed source. Every single company, even Google, their DVN is closed source. So all the other aspects will be open source and available.
Okay, thank you.